First of all, I would like to say thanks to the entire committee who put this great event together, and they have an outstanding track record, as you know. It's been a lot of years, and they've had to work very hard. It's well coordinated, and I'm very impressed. I'd like to also say how glad I am to be a part of this. It's been a long time coming for me, and I guess I've been on the highway of art for more years than I'd like to let you know about. I started before going to grade school. As a young artist crawling around on the floor. I was born in Florida. I started drawing at that early age, and the community that I lived in at the time didn't have any paved roads or anything like that. So my first artwork was drawn in the wet clay after a rain shower. And of course it was washed away immediately, but I always have that space open to me. My grandmother was a quilt maker, and as I sat on the floor during the World War II days, she provided me with the opportunity to be a precision cutter of patterns for her quilts. And of course, I won't tell you what happened if I messed up. So that's how I got my start. Then I went to college at Florida A&M University, and at that time, African American art for many of the students was a foreign subject. My first attendance to class at Florida A&M, I was the only male student in the class. And of course, upon returning to the athletic field, all of the jocks would tease me about being over there with all the girls. But I flipped the script because I had all the addresses and names. They had to come through me. So it worked out. My teachers were fabulous during that era. They were fabulous because my main professor was Dr. Samela Lewis. Dr. Samela Lewis at that time was the only female in America to have 2 PhDs in art. One in fine art, one in art history. Then my second professor was Dr. Howard Lewis. No relation. But Dr. Howard Lewis had majored in automobile design at Ohio State, and he couldn't get a job in an automotive factory. So he came as a professor at FAMU, and he was strict about design and composition. So he taught me quite well. Then I moved on to New York City, where I met Jacob Lawrence at Pratt Institute. I did my graduate work at Pratt Institute. Jacob Lawrence was renowned at that time because Jacob Lawrence was the foremost African American artist. He had work and his photo on the cover of Time magazine. So as a student and the other professors at that time, we were encouraged that if Jacob Lawrence could make $10,000 a year from his paintings, then what about me? That's the way I felt about it. So upon going to New York, I was going up the stairs at Pratt Institute one day, and there was Jacob Lawrence, and I followed him. He wasn't teaching me, but I went to his class anyway. And I got to meet Mr. Lawrence, and Mr. Lawrence introduced me to the then living artists from the Harlem Renaissance. I met Al Hollingsworth, Romeo Bearden, Charles Austin, the whole group. They have all passed on at this point. But the one thing that they shared with me was that if you are born an artist, you have no other choice. Jacob Lawrence said, if you go away from your art and try to do anything else in life, you're going to fail. Because God has given you a gift. So you can't neglect God. You've got to be able to go and sacrifice and do what it is that you were put on this earth to do. So that has been my motto. And now that I'm living in a time when African-American art happens to be breaking records at the auction houses. The auction houses are now taking the work of living African-American artists. And I've lived long enough to know that works that I did as a student are now showing up on the auction block, and they are being turned in for sizable amounts of money. I can say that during the Hewitt collection, which Bank of America purchased for the Gantt Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Hewitt collection collected my work early on. The highest price I got paid for a piece of work that went in the Hewitt collection was $165. John and Vivian Hewitt sold their collection for $1.3 million.
Wow.
What I'm saying here is that that $165 that I got at that point in time was glorious to me because subway tokens were only 15 cents. So I made good use of that money.
Yeah.
So I would like to say that at this particular time, looking at the art, it should feed your soul. Your eyes are just like your stomach. You have to see beautiful things. You should see creativity. If you don't feed your eyes, something happens to you internally. So you should feed your eyes. And I often tease my wife when I'm driving the car and I'm going through the streets of Manhattan or on a country road in South Carolina, and I pass beauty, and sometimes it's female beauty. She says, "What are you looking at?" You know? And I sometimes tell her back, "Oh, I just saw somebody else's problem." I said, well, she said, "Well, why is it a problem?" Because I can't solve it. I'm just looking at it, you know? And we continue on. But I am a people person. I love to watch people. And you can see, I guess, in my work that it comes through. That's a subject that keeps reoccurring and reoccurring. And the things that I'm doing now have been passed down to me through generations. This is not guesswork. I met a lot of people along the way who were committed to making their art and improving their craft. And they passed that on to me. And I was sitting in Lincoln Center to receive an award from the Urban League, and I was sitting next to Eartha Kitt. And Eartha Kitt said to me, "Listen, you don't have no choice but to do what you do. Because I've been doing what I do all of my life, and I'm not going to ever give up doing what I do." So things like that, and meeting personalities who were strong, who made the sacrifice just because. That's who I am. I'm here tonight just because. I thank you.
Thank you so much.